Well, we have breaking news. We go to Trey Yingst in Haifa, Israel, with the latest. Trey.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. We have some breaking news out of Israel, near to the city of Tel Aviv in Jaffa, that sits just to the south of Israel's second largest city. There has been a terror attack, multiple people shot. First responders are currently on the scene, and initial reports indicate that there were 2 gunmen involved. We're gathering more information about this shooting attack in real time, but I can tell you that the location it took place is a very popular area next to cafes and restaurants. And there are videos circulating online that we will not show here on television that appear to show many bodies next to a light rail station. This is a station that was actually newly built in an area where many young people in Jaffa and Tel Aviv like to hang out quite close to the beach, and an indication that the security situation right now across Israel continues to deteriorate as the country is not only bracing for a possible ballistic missile attack from Iran. Earlier today, people heading to shelters after a rocket attack coming from Lebanon, the Iran-backed group Hezbollah there. And now this developing news out of Jaffa, just south of Tel Aviv, of a shooting attack reported with up to 10 victims currently being treated on the scene.
You know, Trey, as I listened to you speak, I just finished watching an 11-minute video from General Hagari, the spokesperson from IDF. And he gave new information that I wasn't aware of, that Hezbollah was planning an October 7th-like attack before this limited-scale invasion that Israel did into Lebanon. And he actually had a name for it. It was called Operation Conquer the Galilee, and they uncovered this plan. And then when they went into Lebanon, they found tunnels under children's bed. I know this is very early in this attack, but any indication as to who these militants are, it comes in the backdrop of a lot of new information that we got from Israel overnight.
So this shooting attack that is developing right now in Jaffa near Tel Aviv could have been committed by anyone. In the past, when we've seen similar terror attacks taking place in Tel Aviv, the economic capital of Israel, the assailants have come from places like the West Bank, from East Jerusalem, sometimes from Jaffa. And so there's no indication this is directly linked to the situation inside Gaza or in Lebanon. But I do want to just read you this statement because, again, this is a developing situation that is coming in right now. A police spokesman sending this message saying a report was received a short time ago regarding a shooting incident in Tel Aviv. There are multiple casualties. Initial suspicion of motive is terror. Details to follow. And again, the initial reports from Israeli media right now indicate there could be up to 10 victims and possibly even 2 gunmen. Again, this shooting attack taking place in a very popular area just south of Tel Aviv at a newly built light rail station next to restaurants and cafes. It's actually just about 5 minutes from where my apartment is, and I often run along this area. It gives you a sense of just the security situation on the ground and how unpredictable it is. And it also comes just minutes after Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari issued a directive to the residents of Tel Aviv to remain close to shelters because they are fearing a ballistic missile attack that could come from Iran at any moment. I've been covering this story for more than 6 years, and I can tell you this moment, today in particular, is some of the most extensive breaking news developments out of the Middle East that I've ever witnessed on the ground. The country is preparing for the possibility of the situation unraveling even further. Nearly a year into this conflict following the October 7th massacre, the Israelis are currently fighting on 7 different fronts. The war continues inside Gaza, as we saw last night during our embed with the Israeli commando unit in southern Lebanon. They are fighting Hezbollah there. They are preparing for the possibility of an attack from Iran. We have seen efforts to attack Israel by Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias. You have Hamas and Islamic Jihad cells in the West Bank, and then the Houthi rebels in Yemen that are backed by Iran that this week launched a ballistic missile at Tel Aviv. And so the situation is truly unprecedented. And when you talk about the level of security preparedness for this country, the air defense systems are on high alert, but U.S. officials and Israeli officials fear that may not be enough tonight. And that is part of the reason they are warning civilians to stay close to shelters.
Trey, it's Emily. Notwithstanding those 7 fronts Israel is currently fighting on and anticipating, was there a call to action by the decimated Hezbollah to inspire these terror attacks? Was there a call to action that is leaving Israel now, attempting to defend on these random and horrifying terror attacks, as we're seeing, you are right, devastating footage of those bodies there by the train station.
I want to take you back almost a year in the early days following the October 7th massacre and the statements that came out from Hamas's political wing and also their military wing, the Al-Qassam brigades. And they were encouraging people across the Arab world to take action on their own, to launch lone wolf attacks against Israel, against Jews around the world. And it's the reason that the security state, not just here, but also at Israeli embassies around the world, has been so high. As for the current conflict that's developing between Israel and Hezbollah, we heard similar calls from Hezbollah leadership, despite the fact that many of them have been taken out in Israeli strikes over the past 2 weeks. The sentiment is still there. And one thing that the Israelis haven't seen develop over the past year, and it was always a fear, according to the defense minister when I would meet with him and other top Israeli security officials, was that we would start to see more terror attacks unfolding across Israel. And these could be sourced anywhere from East Jerusalem, they could come from the West Bank, even from Jaffa. And what we are witnessing unfolding tonight, and I do want to just look at my phone here for some updates as they're coming in. The local MDA, the Red Cross of Israel, is saying there's no indication that the gunmen were neutralized. And so this is an ongoing situation that's unfolding. Yep. Apparently, according to initial reports, they were not neutralized at the scene. And so this is an ongoing story developing just south of Tel Aviv.
Yeah, you know, Trey, the great connection now, the internet, I'm seeing some of what I think you're looking at, too, because there were early reports when the video was dropping, even before what was happening, any details. And the Israeli police have now just confirmed the shooting attack, as you reported about a minute or so ago. They're talking about the number of casualties, that sort of thing. But it was reported that one of the terrorists was neutralized. And now we are saying that that may not be the case, or the possibility that there were more than two. Whatever the situation is, they're on high alert there. And if they were going to get in those storm bunkers, war bunkers, now might be the time to do that if they can't find these people. I mean, this is now what would happen above ground next to the new war zone between Lebanon and Israel. They're fighting terrorists, and terrorists are going to do what they do. They're going to blow stuff up and shoot a lot of people. So what is the talk there on the ground now about taking cover even faster?
Well, I want to give you just a little bit of tick-tock of how these situations unfold, because we've responded to so many of these attacks over the years, reporting here on the ground. And I remember just last year, there was a ramming attack in Tel Aviv, and a European tourist was killed. A number of other people were injured. And we arrived at the scene as the car was still there on the Tayelet, Tel Aviv's version of a boardwalk where people go for runs, actually very close to where this attack unfolded tonight. And police not only investigate at the scene, but they work very quickly to try and gather information about where the attacker came from, because the concern is that they may not be acting alone and that they could be affiliated with other groups like Hamas or Islamic Jihad. And if they're conducting a shooting attack against civilians in Tel Aviv or in Jaffa, they could also be trying to conduct an IED attack or a suicide bombing, as we saw earlier this year. You might remember earlier in the year, there was an attempted suicide attack in Tel Aviv, and the attacker detonated early. But it just gives you a sense of how fluid the situation is on the ground. And when you speak with Israeli defense officials and security officials in Tel Aviv, they always tell you the same thing. They say if the public knew how many of these attacks that we thwarted before they happened, people would never leave their homes, because there are so many attempts, but the intelligence is so high that they often will stop them before they begin. But again, as we are following this developing story, and I do want to just read you the updates here I'm getting on my phone. There's one police source texting me, and also our internal updates going in. There are 4 of the wounded are in critical condition, according to first responders on the scene. And we do expect to get new numbers on if there are any confirmed fatalities following this shooting attack, but we did see that video, and there were certainly people there on the ground that were not moving. Just a horrific scene just south of Tel Aviv, Israel's second largest city.
You know, Trey, authorities were able to say rather quickly that this was a terror incident, they believe. I imagine part of that might have to do with timing. They were anticipating an attack from Iran. We just covered that within the next 12 to 24 hours. And then also the location. I mean, This is Jaffa. You mentioned just minutes from your apartment this happened. There's a lot of young people here. This is a different setting than the kibbutzes in southern Israel. This seems like something intended to create psychological horror for the people of Israel.
Yeah, and not to get too into the weeds about the map here, but the map breakdown is important while we're covering this story. Jaffa is a prime example of coexistence, of how Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side, and they can go to the same restaurants, and they can have hummus, and they can go to the beach together and not be at war. And there is often a tension that erupts in Jaffa when the security situation is high across the region, but very rarely do attacks unfold there like we are watching unfold tonight. And very rarely is it the focal point of tension across the region. That's often reserved for Jerusalem and places like the Gaza border, as we've seen in the past, and of course, during the October 7th massacre. And again, I just want to read you these updates as they're coming in. These are initial reports according to first responders on the scene. But initial reports indicate that 2 attackers in Jaffa opened fire at people at the new light rail train in the Tel Aviv Jaffa area. Photos of the attackers with M16s. And there are also some initial, and I'm going to look at this image as I'm talking to you here, and I'm going to describe it to you. Okay. And I know exactly the store that they're walking out of. There's a store that these 2 gunmen are walking out of, and they appear to be caught on security camera. And in front of them, there is someone laying next to a trash can, not moving. This is a very active area. And again, this is a new light rail that was just recently completed. The light rail has stops all throughout Tel Aviv. You can go from the heart of Tel Aviv to Jaffa if you want to go to the beach there. It's a place where there are many young people with cafes and restaurants. It is not close to any of the security installations in Tel Aviv. It's on the other end of the city from the Kiryat, Israel's version of the Pentagon. It's not near any of the high-tech buildings. It's a very quiet area where people will go to basically relax on the weekend or spend an evening. So to have an attack unfold at this location, the attackers likely knew that this was a soft target. And I can also tell you one other detail about this part of the city. It's actually very close to a police station just down the road. And so the initial video that we are seeing shows some police on mopeds responding to the scene, an indication that even if they were able to get there quickly, they weren't able to be there at that very moment, of course. And as a result, and more images coming in just now confirming that there were indeed 2 gunmen conducting this attack in Tel Aviv.
Well, at least 2. I mean, as I pointed out, the early reports, and some of them are still continuing, that 1 person has been neutralized. We'll see as it all shakes out. I want to be really sensitive to the details that you and I are both gathering from other journalists around the world and from these 2 on the screen, what we can glean from photographs. I want to be really clear. We're seeing a lot of unconfirmed, at least we can't independently confirm these pictures. But what we are seeing are those 2 that people are describing on the ground inside Jaffa, which, you know, technically it's so close, it's Tel Aviv. And there is one, and Kaylee and I pulled it up on different devices in different sources at different times, showing 2 men. And again, it could be more than 2. We don't know. They are very close to the subject that they are firing on. I mean, we're talking about an unsurvivability situation here. And they
guys,
are,
if I could just
nothing else can get hit in this photo.
Confirm.
Go ahead, Trey.
Jerusalem. There are initial reports of sirens sounding near Jerusalem. And just to give you another update on the security situation as it unfolds here, I do want to just look at my phone here. There are a few people texting 2 sources at the same time. One moment here. Yeah, so this gives you a sense of just how things are unraveling here. Yeah. You have this situation that is unfolding on the ground just south of Tel Aviv as security forces, and here it comes right now. There are rocket sirens. We don't know where they're coming from, but I'm going to be very careful with this information, but I'm going to just read out what is happening in real time. Right now, rocket alerts are sounding on the eastern side of Israel, and one of the alerts is next to the Dead Sea hotels. We don't know where this attack is coming from. In previous Iranian attacks, sirens were sounding in these locations. Again, I want to be very careful. We do not know if this is the attack from Iran, but the fact that sirens are sounding in this area indicates that there are, and also near Dimona, which is close to the nuclear facility in the desert. In the past, these areas have been targeted by the Iranians when they launched that attack in April. We do not know if this is the attack from Iran, but in a matter of probably 2 or 3 minutes, I can give you an answer on that. It gives you a sense of just how quickly things are developing here on the ground. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, that top spokesman for the Israeli military, warning earlier this evening, just about 30 minutes ago, of an imminent missile attack. This could be coming from further east, or it could be coming from the north. There's no way to know in real time.